Welcome to our next Superangel Insights session. Today, I'm really glad to have here Piia Sander from Messente to discuss with us how to take advantage of networking online events when you can't actually meet people, but you still have to do sales. Glad to have you here, Piia.
Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
And as always, we collected questions from you. So here are a few to put up. First, what is number one mistake people make? How to do best intros? What channels to use for selling B2B services to high-profile brands? How to get attention in a virtual room? How to encourage networking? And how to slide into LinkedIn feed of high-profile guys. We are going to touch a few of those. But Piia, let's start with how to select out of the ocean of online events the ones which are actually relevant to your sales and which can actually participating in which can actually help you to boost your sales.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'd say that the whole process is very similar to when you choose offline events. So first of all, you look at what industry is the event targeting. Is this industry also in your target list? So what's your ideal customer profile? So do these match? The other thing that we've looked at in Messente, what is the size of the event? So there's events that there's 10 people, there's events that there's 100,000 people attending. We haven't seen online events being that popular, but at the same time, that's also not our target group. We are looking for events where you have roughly 500 to 2,000 people, because that gives you enough time to network properly and at the same time do the preliminary work before the event. So you can do the research on which companies you actually want to approach. And one of the things that was added now due to online events was which platform is the event organizer using, because different platforms have different networking functions.
Can you give an example? That what does it mean? That why is it important what they are using?
Mm-hmm. Good example, some of the events that have a very good track record offline have chosen the option of having their own custom-built networking platform, but unfortunately I haven't seen a good example yet, because they might be missing, let's say, a filtering option so you can filter the attendees, or maybe the messaging feature is not that well built. So far, unfortunately, I haven't had good experiences with these, but one of the platforms definitely that has given a good experience is Brella. So events like, for example, Startup Day here in Estonia uses it, which gives you a better chance to set up meetings before the actual event.
Any other names which like platforms you should avoid, or where it's let's say more difficult to do your sales networking, what you have experienced? That you mentioned the custom made stuff, but we also have like Hopin, which has been quite popular.
Well, Hopin, I've had a few experiences. Unfortunately, from the networking side, I'm not a big fan, but I'm sure that they're working on it, as they are receiving loads of investments. So hopefully they're working on it. If anybody from Hopin is listening, please work on it.
So what has been your main problem with Hopin, or why do you say its networking part is not so good?
I'd say that this is also, I understand from the organizers or the platform side that this is a very specific flow of actions that either result in a meeting or not. So tiny little things like, can I send a preliminary message, or can I choose the time? And these little things just make a difference whether the other side will accept the meeting or not.
Okay, so I've chosen events. The sizes are meaningful. There are high chance that I will be found, and I can find guys who are interesting for me, and I can do my prep work, my homework. So, in your experience, what's the homework you have to do before the actual event is taking place? What are you doing if you get this list of 200 participants?
Yes, exactly. So in the time before Corona, I had the pleasure of getting, or the privilege of getting that list of attendees about 2 weeks beforehand. So I had time to go over the companies attending, to see what kind of people from those companies that are attending, so I could narrow down my target group. Right now, since online events, people usually make the decision pretty last minute to join, and this I've heard also from various organizers that sometimes they make the decision even a day beforehand, but right now the organizers give the access to the lists 2 days beforehand. So you have 2 days where you have to go through a list of companies and people to see who are the best matches for you.
And how would you do it? Like in case of Messente is selling mission critical text messaging services to financial organizations and logistics, including last mile. Um, so how would you decide it? Who is your target customer and who is not?
Exactly, and in that sense, we go back to the ICP profile, so the ideal customer profile. Usually the decision makers that we talk to are either CTOs, CPOs, product managers. Sometimes, depending what their use case is, it might also be somebody from customer service, like the manager of customer service or so. So these are the profiles that we're looking for. But first of all, when we look at the companies, do they have a use case, or do they match any of our existing companies that we work with? In that sense, is there, even if there's nothing available online on that topic, then we can make an educated guess that, let's say, they send PIN codes. And then when we look at people, it depends on now. Sometimes there's a few people attending from one company, sometimes there's only one. So there's two different approaches as well. Whether you're already talking to the person who would be making the final decision, or maybe your agenda is just to get an intro.
Okay, so what would be the difference? Like, how would you how do you prepare differently for the cases where you want an intro or where it's an actual decision maker you can get contact with it?
Well, in that sense, like the preparation side is pretty similar, because your agenda is to set up a meeting. So the first thing you do, you start approaching these people. This is also, there's a twist here that needs to be pointed out. Like, there's a difference whether you're doing it alone or you have a few colleagues who are doing it with you. So you're sort of tackling this event as a team. So what we do is, if we go full on in the sense that there's, I don't know, 3-4 salespeople attending the same event, then we do the lead filtering, so we don't approach the same people. So everybody gets a company and they work on it. Then when you send out those meeting requests, then the mindset should be a little similar to LinkedIn. So when you send messages on LinkedIn, you don't want to be too similar to emails, emaily. Let's call it that. It's a little bit more casual. It's a bit more chatty, but definitely give them some value. What's the topic you want to discuss with? And
can you give an example? How do you verbalize this chatty approach that you wouldn't be too salesy, but at the same time it's obvious what your kind of reasoning behind reaching out is, that I can easily decide that is it interesting or not to me?
Sure. Like, one of the examples that I use when I have the chance is refer to expansions, because this is something that we can definitely help with. So let's say a sample message would be something like, Hi, Kalev. I heard that Superangel is expanding to Mexico. Let's have a chat. Would the suggested time work for you?
Awesome. So you don't mention anything about what Messente is doing, that they can kind of check it on your profile on this platform. That if they want, that the main logic is that do they feel connected, that expansion to Mexico is something they need kind of help and want somebody to.
Well, it's a pretty safe bet if they're expanding to a new market. There's probably trouble in some sense. Might not be SMS, but who knows? Doesn't help to make the whole idea of this message is that my focus is on you. I want to help you. It's not about me. And I think that applies in sales everywhere. The focus is on you. I want to help you and discover if there's a way how I can help you.
How much time do you spend, like, in order to find out that some financial company is expanding to Mexico, that I should Google them and see what they are doing? That if you have like list of 200 people or 200 companies, you have got it down to, let's say, 50 who are interesting to you because of their market and the industry. It's still like 50 companies in 2 days to go through to find some kind of most recent news about them to have a relevance in a message. How much time do you spend on it, or how do you do it?
Very fast fingers. No, actually, the best tool for this is LinkedIn, because usually companies share that kind of information. So my go-to tool is Sales Navigator. And there's a feature called News and Insights. So you can see stuff like if they're, let's say, hiring a lot of people at the moment, or they have posted something about expanding to a new market, or maybe a new feature in their product. So you can always refer to this as sort of up-to-date news that I have done my due diligence on you.
So the main point from your view is that you have to show that you have done your homework, and you have found that based on your homework, there is a reason to have a call or have a contact. And
Yes.
So it's up to the other side to decide that do they trust your homework, and is it relevant to them, and do they want to reach out?
No, absolutely. And it doesn't guarantee 100% success rate. Sometimes they decline and say that, hey, I'm not the right person, and give the email of the right person, which is great because then I can use that as an intro. Or sometimes there's this one client that I've been trying to get for a while now, and he always refuses me and goes like, Piia, it's not the right time yet. Okay.
But you are persistent, that you don't give up.
And he knows me very, very well. So if he and I are at an event, he knows that he will get an invite. But it's all good. You know, he hasn't said that I'm too pushy or anything like that. He takes it with a little bit of humor. So.
Okay. And from your standpoint, sending out a message in that part of the time, it doesn't matter. Do you want intro, or you want to have a call with a decision maker? The messages are kind of the same. It's referring that I've done my homework. I think that there is a business case between your company and my company.
Absolutely. And then since the meetings that the networking applications provide are usually very short, in some cases it's 15 minutes. I like that because that takes the call straight to the point. You have your first pleasantries exchanged, like, hey, how are you? How's Corona? Are you in lockdown? And then you can actually talk about business. And you get through the qualification process very easily. So for us, we're looking for companies in a certain size, and they're very willing to answer those questions if they have the information.
Okay, so we got to the next point. Now we have pinpointed, made arrangements to have a call with all the interesting guys, and you started already. But after the chit chat, you do the intro of why did you want to have this call, or like you start the customer validation that in order to quickly in 15 minutes qualify the guy, how to do it that it's not awkward, that hey, now I have this list of questions and answer fast because we have 15 minutes and then I have qualified you or not, that how to do it in a more conversational way.
Well, it's about the same way that you and I are talking right now. You know, it's the same sort of a conversation. And I usually point out that, hey, I wrote to you that I want to learn more about your expansion to Mexico. Obviously, I'm in the SMS business. Do you have a provider already? Have you figured out that part? And sort of go from there. So I do guide them to the topic that I want to talk about, but it's still about them. So I'm not going to pitch Messente. I never pitch Messente in these calls ever.
You just mentioned that broadly what you are doing with dealing with what's your company's Messente is doing, that you are in SMS business, and you go from there. That you don't start to pitch how you are better from competitors and what features you have, and so that's for the next calls.
Yes, exactly. If they do ask about it, obviously I'm going to answer them, but usually, as my focus is keeping the call on them to get as much information as possible to understand if we have material to work on. Should we move forward? Should we set up a follow-up call? Quite a lot of these calls move straight to an offer stage. So in the SMS business, price is a pretty big deal. So this is sort of how they qualify us. If you can give me this price in Mexico, then we can talk.
Okay. So, and that can happen also in 15 minutes, that they can qualify you back, that if they are a decision maker, they already know their numbers, and they can ask it, okay, sounds interesting, what's your price point? If you're below, let's talk. If not, then sorry.
So yeah, this sort of, that's why I like events as well, because usually these steps take a very long time when we're talking about international B2B sales to even get to this point of conversation. So with an event, it takes you two days to qualify the leads, and then 15 minutes to actually get to know this company better and understand if it's worth your time and effort to work with them. Sounds a little bit cocky, I know, but at the same time, it's we look at the sales team as somebody who has a very limited amount of time, and that time needs to be used as efficiently as possible. So that's why we have these procedures in place.
So basically, out of this 15 minutes call, you have like following options that somebody qualifies you already, that okay, you can do it below that price point, send me, let's talk more in like email or have a longer call. Then it could be that they say that okay, that price point is not interesting, that sorry, you are too expensive. And like a third option would be that they say that okay, I'm not the right person, or refer to somebody else, or so basically 3 options. It's pretty obvious what will happen with a follow-up if they say that yes. How do you like, what about the rest of the 2? That one is like they introduce you to somebody else, then it's also kind of obvious that what you should do, that you should contact them and so forth, and you have a power of reference that hey, that guy in your company said that I definitely have to talk to you. But what about the third option where they say that, oh, you're too expensive, or that we are not interested? What do you do there? Is that still something you write down, or you come back to them later on, or what's your...
No, absolutely. I never take this as a final stop, as a final no. Then I can always say that, hey, let me discuss with our operations team. I'll take a look at what options we have on the table. So what kind of volumes are you sending? If it's over some limit, then maybe we have room for negotiations. But other than pricing, it's more about the features that they want. So do they need alpha sender IDs, meaning that the message would be coming from Superangel? Do they need two-way messaging, meaning that the customers need to reply to them as well? So you go into a little bit more detail as much as you can during those 15 minutes. And I usually recommend setting up a longer call, maybe with somebody else also from the team who handles these procedures.
So basically, if they say no, you try to use the time what's left from the 15 minutes in order to make them curious about your additional features.
Yes, and that's the thing. I don't really get that many no's because I rarely make them an offer. If I know that they're asking for a price and I know that it's higher than I can tell, or I can promise straight away, then I usually just say that, okay, I have your target price. I'm going to talk to our operations team. So I don't get a no, but I'm already like moving them towards a follow-up email and a follow-up call.
How do you avoid telling the price? Because like it's pretty obvious from a customer point of view that, okay, here's a service provider and I ask, what's your price? And then you kind of avoid it by asking back at how much you are paying right now. And it's easy for me to say, no, I'm not telling you that information right now. Tell me your price and then I will compare it. Or how does this, or in your industry, it's not a problem, but they are willing to give their current price point right away? Or
So it depends a lot on the company and the purchasing process. If there's a procurement team, that makes it a little bit more difficult, but that because then it's usually only about the price, and I don't really like these situations too much. But usually when they ask for a price, then it also depends on which country they're sending to, because each country has a different price. How much are you sending to this country? Most of the decision makers are aware of this situation, so it's not a problem. But if they are not aware, if it's the first time they do this, then I just tell them how it is. And usually everybody understands. There's been one case that I know that a client was not happy that another sales guy from Messente didn't give this price straight away. But what happened was that I was assigned the deal later on as a follow-up because there were too many deals from an offline event. And I already had the chance to prepare and know what prices in those markets are. So when we had the call, I could tell him the price straight off the bat. So that sort of worked. But other than that, I haven't really heard like negative feedback that you can't really say the price out loud straight away.
Cool. We have had a 15-minute call. We have qualified the lead that is it a go, no go, or something in between. And then now it's a follow-up. That how do you do the follow-up? What's your next step? How fast you do the follow-ups when you have like I don't know how many meetings you have during one event, like 40, 50, 20.
Well, it depends on how many days it goes on for, because one of the things is that usually these platforms don't allow recording, so you have to make notes all the time. I would say around 50 meetings per day is about the maximum that you can mentally handle. If it goes over that, then it's just a mush. Everybody's the same. You can't remember anything that anybody said anymore.
So 50, 50. 15, 1 0, 1 5, sorry.
1 5, yeah.
Okay.
Anything higher than that, you're not actually able to process it as a human being, and we've tried this out. And to be honest, getting 50 yeses to meetings for one day is a very rare occasion. I know one guy that has done that. I need to talk to him about that. But anyways, make those notes, but at the end of each call, I'm going to tell them that, hey, obviously there's a lot of calls going on. I'm going to get back to you over email the day after tomorrow. Is that okay? And obviously they're in the same situation, so everybody understands, but that's the whole point. Whether it's a usual Zoom call or it's an event call, set up a timeline. When are you getting back to them? So they know to expect that. And that gives you a higher chance of response.
That's very cool that you kind of fresh mental marker into their brain that when they get the email from you, that it's kind of expected that some of them might remember that, oh yeah, I think that she was the one with who asked for permission. Cool. And how do you, like, of course it kind of depends on how did the meeting go, but is your follow-up mail, if they asked for you kind of saw that there is maybe you ask for additional information regarding the features and their stuff, and they might give you something but might not. How salesy is your follow-up mail? Are you sending out the contract already, or how do you go with this?
No, it's usually not the contract. It's the follow-up email is more of a recap of what we talked about. So we discussed these topics. We agreed that it would make sense to explore this feature further. If we already discussed pricing, then usually there's a pricing proposal attached. And then we also discussed setting up another call on Friday. Would 3 p.m. work for you? Or in some cases, even you wanted to check out our website and our dashboard, and I'll send you an invite in a separate email.
Okay.
So sometimes it goes that way. But also in the cases where you don't get that far, it's also nice to either send a follow-up email, thank you for the conversation, it was nice to meet you, or add them on LinkedIn and send the same content that I had a lovely chat with you and let's keep in touch.
Okay, so you definitely answered to everyone, and has it had a positive feedback also that the guys whom you didn't see any point of doing business months or years later come back and say, hey, now we are ready?
Mm-hmm. It is, and that's where LinkedIn comes in again, because I do sometimes share content that's relevant to the SMS world, or just content that like I'm active in something. So every now and again I pop up in their news feed. So when they want SMS services, they come back to me, and I have had clients who have done that, and it's like I have some weird stories with that.
So part of follow-up is also connecting in LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Either way, connect on LinkedIn, and also with the people that didn't respond to your meeting requests. So, hey, I wanted to have a meeting with you at this event. Unfortunately, we couldn't make it. Let's connect on LinkedIn and discuss further, or I'd love to connect over LinkedIn and explore this.
Very cool. We talked about the events where you have this official possibility to sign up for online calls and meetings. What about the webinars where you don't have that option? You just have on this topic or just lectures, online lectures, but you know that a bunch of your target customers are attending it. Can you somehow use this also for making sales outreach?
Well, absolutely you can. You can use anything to make sales outreach. So one of the things is to, usually the attendee lists are public in social media in the sense that you can get some sort of a list from Facebook or LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn is sort of developing their events feature a little bit better. So you already have a list of people who are interested in this topic. So just go and approach them on LinkedIn. Hey, I saw that you were interested in this event. Let's connect and get to know each other better. And it's also, it's already a little bit of a warm intro in the sense that I'm showing you that we have common interests.
One of the questions we had from audience is, what are the mistakes you see sales guys do during these online events?
To point out that maybe, well, I think we actually mentioned all of them, but to sort of put together in one bundle as, first of all, if there's a public chat, then you go and promote yourself, you add your LinkedIn list, or maybe even pitch your company. That's never a good idea. I've never heard that anybody had a deal doing that, you know. The other thing is when you're on a call, the networking call, then you start talking about yourself, your company, the features, and you don't ask questions. The whole idea is to get to know the other person. And if you don't do this, then they're just gonna float away. Especially, I think online events has sort of made it easier to switch off. You're looking somewhere in the distance, you're not actually listening to the person. Maybe you're playing on your phone at the same time. You can see that, but at the same time, you can't do anything about it, you know, because you're pitching your idea and you're not listening to the other person. So don't do that as well. And then one of the things, if you join an event with a team, then co-working is very important. Agree who approaches whom. So it's a little bit confusing because I get these invites as well. And if there's 5 people approaching me from the same company, then I'm a nice person and I'm going to tell you that, hey, I set up a meeting with Tom already, you know, but maybe someone else is not that nice and just looks at you like, what are you doing? You know, it's not a good way to promote your brand.
Yeah, it doesn't build the confidence that if they can mess up, if they can't coordinate contacting me, what else can't they coordinate?
Exactly. So spend that 5 to 10 extra minutes talking to your teammates and agreeing that let's do this way.
Awesome. What would be your, like we talked about how to prepare, how to select. I have one more question about this. What's your experience at obvious way how to select the events is the ones which used to be physical, offline, which were good events. Now they have online format. I go to these. But there's like plenty now which never have been or existed before. They are just online events, and sometimes I kind of have to buy a ticket in advance, and I don't know who will be showing up there. So how have you solved that? Which new ones you trust enough to attend and take your time?
That's a good question. One of the things I look at is, do they have a LinkedIn event and who are attending? Because that's sort of a sneak preview of what I might get at the event. The other good idea is to sort of test the free events, because a lot of events don't have a ticket price anymore, because I don't even know why. I think it's perfectly okay to ask for a ticket price. But some events have decided to do online for free. Go check it out, spend 5 minutes seeing if the networking tool works for you. If the attendee list is sort of what you were expecting. If it isn't, just close it and move on with your life.
Very cool. So we talked about selecting, we talked about prepping for events, we talked about how to use the 15 minutes. We talked about how to do a follow-up. I'm looking at the questions we had. How to how to gain attention and stand out in a virtual room. I guess you kind of answered it, that you have to ask questions and make yourself interesting to the other party, that you can help them, and you show that you have done your homework and you are just not randomly talking to them, but you believe that there's a high chance that you can be useful to them. Is there anything else?
Maybe one thing to mention is that when it comes to sort of the webinar or the conference inside of these platforms, then there's usually a public chat next to it. So you can use that as well, but not to send your LinkedIn list, but ask questions from the whoever is giving the keynote or the organizers, or if somebody needs help, comment on that, try to help them. So because other people see that too, and they see that, hey, I have a meeting coming up with Piia, she's being really active and nice with other people, she might be nice with me as well.
Has it worked for you that being active, asking questions has got you more attention and more people contacting you?
Well, I haven't seen the correlation yet, but I think it also has an effect on myself,
Mm.
because this sort of gets me in the mood of, okay, let's network, let's do this thing, because it's so easy to sort of be dull at home. You, like, a lot of people had trouble when we started working from home, getting out of their pajamas and working from pajamas all day long, But no, I do my hair, I do my makeup, I get myself ready, I talk to some people already. One of the things that is really good to sort of get yourself going as well, some of these events have sort of this speed networking feature. So you get to talk to each person for like 5 minutes, but it's like, okay, it's very hard to get value out of these, other than it's very easy to connect with them on LinkedIn later. But at the same time, it is a huge boost on your energy because it's fun.
Mm.
And that means that you bring that emotion to your meetings as well.
So the final tip is that go into the meetings with pumped up energy and optimism and positive vibe, and it works for you.
Absolutely, and smile a little, that always helps. Or if you somehow can crack a joke, that always helps. And that's true with any kind of networking. It doesn't have to be online. One of the best features, and I'm so sorry that he's sleeping somewhere, is I have a cat with he's a huge fluffy cat, and he sometimes walks behind my back and you just see the tail going, like, and that always is a conversation starter. Anything that's a little bit quirky is good, because that takes away from the tension of this being a hardcore sales call. Like, I actually want to get to know you and I want to help you.
That's a yeah, somewhat with a cat. It's somewhat difficult to arrange, but yeah, like go with it when it happens. With jokes, it's always double-edged sword that you have to be careful. But in different culture contexts, different jokes are taken differently. And one of the pitch coaches suggested that if you want to use a joke inside your pitch about your company or startup, then test it before on target country audience. That
No, absolutely, yeah. You have to know your audience no matter what. And the other thing is, I talk to a lot of CTOs who are sort of a little bit maybe more introverted, so jokes with them might backfire quite quickly. I do love them, but still. But just to sort of give you a joke on the cat story, then one time this did happen, that my cat was passing by, and then the lady goes like, "Ooh, I have 6." And let's follow up with anything else that we were talking about. But that was just so random. Like, yeah, I have 6 cats. So what were you talking about, the SMS service?
Yeah, but it's definitely cat people will bond with you. But dog lovers might not. But yeah, it's
Dog lovers might not. Yeah. But still, it's the whole point is to sort of, yeah, make it personal. I'd say that this is just not a random sales call, because I think that sales in general is sort of moving towards more personalization, because nobody wants to get those automated marketing emails, and you don't want to have another salesperson who is just going to pitch you something. So taking that little extra effort and making that a little bit personal, in the sense that I checked your company's background. I wanted to talk to you personally, and then show that you're a human being, not a robot.
Cool. Thank you very much, Piia, for this nice overview of what you do and how you have been boosting your sales with online events. Before starting this, we had a brief chat that people are getting kind of used to Corona, so they are not afraid of doing decisions anymore. That you can actually utilize now the online reach out possibilities. And as you said, that within 15 minutes you can qualify a company or a person, which otherwise over email or phone calls would have taken you quite some time to reach to the same discussion level or same details. Thank you very much, and all of you listening, it was a pleasure. And I wish you all the best, and see you next time.
Thank you.